Hello crafty friends, do you use double-sided adhesive sheets or sheets of stickers, and do you throw away the release paper once you've peeled it off of the double-sided adhesive? If you do, you might be throwing away a really useful tool. So release paper is that non-stick paper that you peel off when you stick down your double-sided adhesive or your sticker sheets. And in today's video, I'm going to share 10 ideas for using that release paper so it doesn't just go in the bin. The first idea is to use it for burnishing. So I've got some glittery die cuts here, but that's neither here nor there. They're just die cuts. And I'm using my glue dotter to add glue to the back of the die cuts. If you want to know how to make a glue dotter, there is a video linked below. So I pop my die cuts onto a piece of card, and to press them down I use the non-stick side of my release paper. This stops me getting gluey fingers. It also stops me getting mucky fingerprints on the card, and the non-stick paper won't get glued to any bits of glue that splurge out from underneath the die cuts. You can also use this release paper for burnishing glitter down into double-sided adhesive. It would work with foil or embossing powder, anything that needs a really good press down. So on to idea number 2, and that is to store and cut down double-sided tapes. I've got here some double-sided foam tape. It's quite wide, about 1.5 centimetres wide, and it comes on a big roll. But you can take it off the roll and stick it on the non-stick side of release paper. This might be useful for travel. If you don't want to take a huge roll with you, you can just take a few strips. You can also cut down the foam tape or the double-sided tape with scissors while it's stuck on the release paper. So if you don't want such wide tape, you can cut it into thinner strips, and because it's on release paper, it won't get stuck to your scissors. I no longer buy thin strips of foam tape or double-sided tape because it's really easy to make my own when I need it using this method. Idea number 3 is use release paper to help you easily work on sticky die cuts. So I die cut a butterfly shape from a piece of white card that I'd put double-sided adhesive on. I then removed the release paper from that and stuck the butterfly down to this spare piece of release paper. I was then able to hold the release paper while I blended some ink on it, and the butterfly didn't shift, and the release paper made it a bit easier to handle. I also spattered some metallic paint on and used my hairdryer to dry it, and that butterfly stayed put on the release paper, but when I wanted to peel it off I was able to do so, and then I could stick it on a card. And another good thing about this release paper is that it is sort of waterproof. So you can take a damp baby wipe or a damp cloth and wipe off any ink or paint and set it aside to dry, and you'll probably get quite a few uses out of it. So our next idea is to use the release paper to help intricate die cuts pop out of the die when you cut them. You can do this with baking paper, deli paper, greaseproof paper, wax paper. You just put a sheet in between the die and the cardstock you're trying to cut, run it through your die cutting machine, and that non-stick paper will help the die cut pop out, and you won't be there for ages trying to poke it out and pull it out without tearing it. If your release paper is only non-stick on one side, make sure the non-stick side is facing the die, not the card. And you can always use that die cut release paper on your cards. So we're on to number 5 now, and that is to use the release paper to help you die cut from washi tape. Washi tape is very thin, can be very fiddly. If you want to die cut it because you want some very thin, flat embellishments on your card, stick your washi tape onto some release paper, however you like, in whatever arrangement you like, and take whatever die you like and cut some shapes out of it. I use my variable size circle die to die cut some very flat washi tape dots, and I use my tweezers to take the release paper off the back of the dots and the dots out of the die, and I stuck them down on a piece of white card. And you can also use the bits of washi tape that you've die cut from if it's left an interesting design. And we're on to number 6 now, and that is to make a DIY sticker book. So I took a large sheet of the release paper from the back of some double-sided adhesive, and I folded it in half, then half again, then trimmed it down so I had 4 equal size pieces. I then used my 3-hole hole punch to punch the holes, and I used this ring binder clippy thing to hold the pieces together. Of course, you can make your DIY sticker book pages any size you like. You don't have to use the same binding method as me. You could stitch them together. You could use a book binding tool such as the We Are Memory Keepers cinch tool, or you could just keep loose sheets in some kind of pocket or wallet. And these are great for storing your bits of washi, your bits of foam tape, double-sided tape, sticky die cuts, actual shop bought stickers, anything you like really. And then you can use them on the go. One of my favourite ways to use release paper is to make DIY masks and stencils. So I have covered a panel of card with some double-sided sticky, and then I took a release paper butterfly and stuck that on the double-sided sticky, burnishing it down with another piece of release paper to make sure it was well stuck. I then sprinkled over some glitter, shook it off and burnished it down with the release paper again to make sure it was well and truly stuck. I brushed off any excess glitter. I then took my tweezers and carefully removed the butterfly release paper mask, and I sprinkled gold glitter over the sticky that was exposed by the removal of the release paper butterfly. I then gave that a good burnish and a brush, and now I have a gold glitter butterfly inside a white iridescent glitter surround. You can also do this technique with embossing powder, and I have a video all about that linked below. You can also use release paper masks and stencils when you're playing with your gel plates. I put some teal paint down, I laid down a release paper butterfly, then I put some more paint over the top, braided that all around, removed the release paper butterfly, added a bit of card, pressed it all down to get that paint transfer, and when I removed the card I had a lovely grungy painty background with a butterfly image in it. Our next idea is to use release paper to pre-make dimensional drops. I've got some black Nouveau drops here, and I'm just popping them on the non-stick side of the release paper and setting them aside to dry, and once they're dry you'll be able to peel them off and glue them to your projects. Because release paper is a non-absorbent, it makes a pretty good smooshing tool. So I've put some Distress Oxide on the non-stick side of my release paper, spritzed it with a bit of water, and then gently pressed it down onto this piece of white card to create a lovely smooshing effect. Release paper is very similar to the kind of plasticky papers you get in disposable palette pads, so you can use release paper as a palette. I've got some watercolours here, and I put a couple of colours on the non-stick side of my release paper. They beaded up, but the paper made a very convenient palette, and you can wipe it clean with a baby wipe or a paper towel and get quite a few uses out of it. So again, might be useful for travel. So that's 10 ways to use release paper. I do hope you found today's ideas helpful. I'd love it if you could leave a comment and a thumbs up, and maybe share my video on social media. And if you'd like to see more from me, please subscribe and ring the notification bell, and I'll see you back here very soon for another video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.